You're listening to an Airwave Media Podcast.
Hello, and thanks for joining Revolution 250. This is where we remember events that took place 250 years ago this week. It's just a short bonus episode from the American Revolution podcast to remember these important 250th anniversaries of the Revolutionary War. This week, we remember the British fleet's arrival at Cape Fear, North Carolina, on April 18, 1776. Months before Britain evacuated Boston, British General William Howe sent his second-in-command, General Henry Clinton, to move south. Clinton planned to meet up with a Loyalist army in North Carolina. The British were also sending a fleet from Ireland, commanded by Commodore Peter Parker, also transporting an army of regulars under the command of General Charles Cornwallis. General Clinton's transport ships had arrived off the coast of Cape Fear in North Carolina in mid-March. When he arrived, he received the bad news that the Loyalist army that he expected to greet him had been defeated at Moores Creek Bridge and that the rebels were still in full control of the colony. He sat aboard a ship off the coast awaiting the arrival of the British fleet from Ireland. Now, the British fleet should have already been there, but as often happened, bad weather had delayed the fleet's arrival. Because General Clinton's small group of ships did not carry enough water or fresh food to feed those on board, they tried to send raiding parties on shore to obtain what they needed. These raids met with violent resistance from the locals and from Continental regiments under the command of Continental General James Moore, who was from North Carolina and who commanded the Continental forces there. Weeks passed as General Clinton wondered if the British fleet would ever arrive. His position was becoming increasingly tenuous, with the continuing danger from the enemy holding the shore and the lack of access to food and supplies for those aboard his ships. Finally, on April 18, 1776, more than a month after Clinton had arrived, the first ships of the British fleet arrived at Cape Fear. The fleet, however, had scattered, so it would take another nearly 2 months for all of the ships to arrive. When Commodore Parker arrived with orders from Lord Germain back in London, the plans told them that they were to provide arms to the Loyalist army that had been raised in North Carolina, they were to pacify that colony with the army, and then go on to the neighboring ones in Virginia, South Carolina, and Georgia. They should be able to accomplish all of this within a month or two, then sail up to New York to assist General Howe with his planned spring attack on New York City. Given that the entire fleet would not arrive until May, and there was no Loyalist army to arm, the plans were already a bust. General Howe's spring attack on New York was also running way behind schedule, so the Southern commanders had to decide what to do, coming up with their own plans, or simply sail back up to New York without doing anything. As I said, by this point, not even all of Parker's fleet had arrived in North Carolina, so the fleet simply waited, with everyone remaining aboard ship. The soldiers and sailors within the British fleet began dying of scurvy from the lack of fresh food. In late May, Clinton received updated orders from Germain back in London, telling him to give up on the Southern campaign and simply sail up to New York to assist General Howe with his attack there. Clinton decided that wouldn't be much fun, so he and General Cornwallis decided to sail south instead and attack Charleston, South Carolina. I hope you've enjoyed this Revolution 250 moment. For more details on the subject of today's discussion, check out episodes 82 and 96 of the American Revolution podcast, which you can access at blog.amrevpodcast.com. You're also welcome to subscribe for free to the whole podcast on whatever podcast platform you like. Thanks again for listening to this Revolution 250 moment on the American Revolution podcast.